So I'm going to pivot. I want to now talk about toxic coworkers or bosses. Okay. So let's say we find ourselves, and I know these are probably different situations, but I'll let you kind of choose your own adventure on this one, Leslie. Let's say we find ourselves either with a toxic coworker that's just really difficult to work with. Maybe there's just some real challenges there they're causing problems for us, or we find ourselves with a toxic boss that's just very, very difficult. But what are some recourses or avenues we can take to try and resolve that conflict?
So first, before determining that person is toxic, or even to the extent of being a bully, start really looking at and reflecting on the conversations and communication that's going on between the two of you. For instance, on the written side, I've seen this way too many times where I'm told, oh, we're in a toxic work culture. Look at all these emails I have that shows you. And I read them and go, why don't you read them out loud to me of how you hear this email?
Oh, interesting.
And then I'll read the email out loud. And then we see the disconnect that because there were some feelings towards this person, what they read is very different than what was the voice the person wrote it in.
So the person might write something like, fine, the word just fine, but we could interpret it as fine or fine, right? It's just the word fine.
And you picked on a perfect word that I personally have a hot button about, and I know it and I recognize it. There was a way my mom said fine that you knew things were not fine. So when I hear someone go fine or even write fine, I'm like, well, it's not fine, is it? And I check in on that one. So the knowing what voice someone was using when they were writing something is impossible to know without asking them. And one way I combat that is that if I receive an email from someone that I'm just seeing negative intent in it, I'll just call up and get in a conversation like, oh, you know what? I didn't get a chance to read that whole email because there's a problem with my computer or phone or whatever. Could you tell me what you needed? When I hear it, now I'm getting the more accurate tone versus what I put into it. Yeah. It's the same thing with the verbal, that maybe we're assuming that this person is toxic because of the way we've heard them talk to us, the way they've behaved. First, assume positive intent. Just give that benefit of the doubt to everyone, and then start listening to the content and not always the behavior, because we're all different in the way we talk. And I'm not trying to say that there isn't toxicity in a workplace. I'm just trying to weave through it because it's not all toxic that can't be managed.
I think that's beautiful. I love that. And I think that's so true. Immediately, I'm thinking about when that becomes even more challenging and more relevant when people move up higher in organizations because they lead a function that is naturally in tension with another function. Yes. Like I think about all organizations like a car. Some functions are brake pedal functions, some functions are gas pedal functions. And you need them both to navigate those turns. And if you're all gas pedal, you go off the cliff. And if you're all brake pedal, you never leave the parking spot. So finance and marketing are always going to be in tension, right? Marketing says, let's spend more money. And finance says, whoa, no spending. We need to keep our spending down to zero. And then that creates natural tension. And so it's easy for those leaders to say, I don't like Sandra in finance. She always tells me no. But that's just kind of Sandra's job. And so sometimes you can misinterpret it. I love your idea of assuming positive intent. Sandra's just trying to do the best for the company.
I was that person who always had to say no because I was managing this asset where it wasn't our core business, the real estate. But yet between real estate and human resources, our employees, we were the two biggest costs in the company. And it was always immediate that people were like, oh, Leslie, oh, we need more space. We need a new, building, whatever. And I, of course it's first, no, let's look at it and figure out what we can do. So there was always tension and conflict immediately. I was in a company that grew huge. We started 100 employees when I got there, and then we grew to over 5,000.
Wow.
And there were a lot of silos. And I was talking to the president once, and I go, oh, you know what, one of those next big rah-rah events that we have where we all get together, can we figure out a way to get everyone to get along? And he's like, what do you mean? And it was what you described. Like, of course, finance is, struggling, has tension with certain departments because they're always saying no. And he's like, oh, no. I love that tension. I love the organized chaos. I want the silos to all be competing with each other. So that was our company culture. It was I thought it was toxic. And then when I listened to him, I realized he loved that. He thought tension was good. It created competition. So it's all mindset. Yeah.
I've heard a leader say in his organization, I'm trying to create a state of constant professional discomfort, which can be valuable in many ways.